welcome back to Getting to the Top, where I interview transformational leaders about their leadership journey in hopes that we inspire you on your own leadership journey, as well as follow in their footsteps and learn something new. So today I have the honor of interviewing Ms. Diane Henderson. She has over 30 years experience in sport management with a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology. She holds the position of the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. On her third quadrennial from the 2022 to 2025, she held the positions of chair of the Women in Sport Commission, chef de mission of the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast, as well as Pan Am Games, Toronto and Lima. She was the assistant chef de mission of the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. She has championed the Trinidad and Tobago International Marathon for 13 years, and she's a past executive of the Trinidad and Tobago Triathlon Federation, where she continues to actively participate as a technical official on the World Triathlon Multi-sport Committee for a 4-year term. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Getting to the Top, Diane.
Thank you, Raquel. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. So, I was so delighted because we had spent so much time talking about the future's female and women in leadership and needing to have the first female president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. And here you are, and here it is. How does it feel?
Still a little bit surreal. It's like an out-of-body experience in the uncomfortable zone every day.
And it's amazing, but there are not very many female heads of national Olympic committees globally. It's just not a very common thing.
There are now. They're increasing. In fact, in the Caribbean, I think we have a few, and with the as we host the CANOC General Assembly this weekend, I'm sure we will see all of them there.
Lovely. And so how did you start? How did you get started? What did you think you were going to be as a youngster, as a little girl? You grew up, you had siblings. Tell me about how you got started, how you came into being.
I think just is my love for sport. I was extremely athletic, a little wild, tomboyish, so I was always into athletics and did swimming and little dance, but running became my thing, and I did that primarily as I grew into my 20s and everything. But then I also volunteered through distance running. I volunteered to do road races, and we worked and put on road races. So the whole idea of getting involved in administration started very early, in my 20s. So understanding how to manage a race and doing those things come extremely natural. And then obviously you put yourself through different courses that come up.
Yeah.
I did something jumped out to me recently when I saw a file, was the TTOC administrative course. I did that in 2001 or something like that. So I've been doing sport management courses and sport science and all different technical officials, coaching for a very long time, throughout my whole tenure. And that was just adding up knowledge and experience over the years,
Very nice. So what was the first sport you played? What do you remember about like your first sporting experience?
Well, in school, basically we did athletics, so that was more, my choices were netball, and for non-athletics, team sport was netball, and athletics was high jump and sprints, or high jump and running, so. Wow.
So how do you get into high jump? The coach just says, I think, Diane, you have some potential, or you just.
I think it was my that little always all over the place kind of thing, but I just was, okay, I'll try that, I'll do that, maybe nobody else could have, and I did it. So, you choose whatever you figure is out of the box kind of thing.
And in terms of, and what did your parents think?
I'm not sure at that time, maybe they were happy that I was all, very active. I had two brothers. So the whole thing about it is that, you're always there involved. I think the important thing is my mother used to play tennis. So the whole idea of being active came from the parents. We have a very sporting, the Hendersons is a very sporting and musical family. So sport was part of what you did, you know, that came natural to the family. Go do some sport. You know?
Nice. So what did your brothers do?
Oh, well, one actually played more music, but I think cricket and football and that sort of thing. And then eventually cycling came into the thing a little later on.
So you graduate from high school and then you discover, you know, was it at high school or college level that you discovered this could be a career?
Oh, no. Well, that's a good question. When, but not maybe high school, but when in my 20s, when I was doing all of this administration, definitely I knew I loved sports. So, and just the manner in which I think there was a particular efficiency that I had in wanting to get these things done to the best quality output, you know, that we can do. So all that experience carried on to different committees, just volunteering for committees, being involved. I think that leadership or leading comes as a result of having a passion to want to see something get done. So therefore, you know, you then get involved to make sure that it can be done to the best of your ability. And then you end up leading, whether it's your colleagues or who is there on the team with you, or you're contributing into getting it done as the best that the team can get done.
Yeah. And so then you get into sports administration, and then you have this illustrious career in sports administration, in sports management. And so tell us about your career.
The first, Roadrunners Club is where I did all the road running administration, road races. And then what happened is the entry is not to their, shortfall, but they were focused mainly on sprints, and distance running wasn't getting that assistance or focus. And the distance running clubs decided to put forward people and make a distance running team, a committee. And I was put forward, and there I was as a member going up for the committee, and I was the first female, you know, and something like that. It's really and truly that somebody reminded me that I was the first female years after, because those things, you know, you just do, you don't really take cognizance as they do now.
Right.
But then I recognize, yes, I was that at the time. But so after N3As was triathlon or a cycling group, and from then it went on to triathlon because I broadened my scope of sports. I went into cycling and brought back the swimming and went into that sport, which I love to today. And it touched on a lot of other things like adventure racing and hiking, which I still love. So, you know, you do all these other little races and stuff, and then you increase the distance. But while doing that, in everything I did, I always played a hand in the committee, or always played a hand in assisting in something, you know, imparting my knowledge.
But it seems as though, you know, during these times and on many of these occasions, you would have been at times one of very few women or one of the only women in the room. And it seems as though you almost didn't even notice. You were just get it done. Just do what needs to be done.
Yeah. I don't think that by the triathlon time there were females, but still overpowered 2-to-1 men. But yeah, I don't think it's just about getting the work done. You know, you go in there and you get the work done. You don't really look to see who's on your side, right or left.
You had to have been underestimated at some point in all of this. I know that I can't remember, you know, I've done 4 marathons myself. And I remember I was talking to somebody, and this man came to explain to me what a marathon was. And I was just like, thanks, I've done 4. I appreciate it. I appreciate, you know, the explanation. But, you know, have you had any of those experiences where, you know, people are just sort of just not assuming that you would be such a powerhouse in sports?
I still think I'm underestimated, Raquel.
Good.
Okay. So, and that just goes maybe for a feeling of all women, because no matter where we reach, we are still underestimated, because nobody really, but let's say not nobody, but some people just don't value what you can or what you have done, whether or not it's a big item thing or consistent thing across the board. You know, the main thing is that some very true words, I think that one of my ex-bosses have said, is that you add value. It's one of the most nourishing things you can tell somebody, is that you add value. You know what I mean? And you contribute.
But I remember, you know, in the time on the Olympic Committee, you're always very, very focused, very deliberate, very wanting to see things happen. And that seems to have served you very, very well in your career, you know, just kind of like, listen, let's just get everybody together and let's get it done. Where did that come from? Was that part of your upbringing, or you think the athleticism brought that to you? What do you think delivered that to you?
Might be a combination, but I think a lot of that is my father. Very, very workaholic, very, very, you know, and very early, he put you, okay, do a secretarial course, you know, that was patriarchal era. Boys get to do certain things, the girls do that.
Yes.
So became very, very independent. And since then, it's about me having to push myself. So that's the kind of thing. So whether or not you have no choice and you feel as though you need to do it, or else nobody else can do it for you. And with that too, you know, you go in my work life, you know, you have an objective and you say, okay, let's do it this way. Yes, you get together a number of people, but whether or not, you know, you're there getting ideas, making ideas happen, and trying to just get it done.
So being a chef de mission has to be a very, very huge responsibility, and one that, tell me about your first experience serving in that capacity.
Right. So the first one was assistant with Glasgow, but I was obviously learning and being guided. But the next year I did Toronto. I was the chef. So I think a lot of it is, I don't think people realize, but a lot of it is, and thanks to TTOC, understanding and respecting the role of doing the work, because a lot of it you have to actually is administrative. There's a lot of work online with the collaboration and the accreditation and all of that you have to do, the entire team, you know, and 100 and something people to manage and getting all the information, and is a lot of stuff. So yes, it's like jumping in and swimming. Thank God I know how to swim. So you know, yeah, it's like that. So you have to really roll with the punches, be a quick learner, and learn to adapt to receiving information, lots of it, and trying to keep abreast of that information. You really afloat. You're keeping and being abreast of that information, and trying to go with it as the guidelines are quick and many.
So for someone who doesn't understand what a chef de mission, walk us through it. What does that entail? You know, you're preparing to go off to games, and you're the person who's responsible for everything, making sure that everybody is
First of all, it's a multi-sport game. Most of the activities or events that most of these sporting organizations do are one sport. So these could be 10 sports, it could be 15 sports, and you have athletes or teams for all of those sports. And these games already have templates and management systems in which they manage all this information. However, every country has to submit to deadlines all of the information for each individual athlete and official that is put forward. You know, so the whole idea is that you have to be getting that information from the NSOs, making sure that selection and all the performance and the qualifications are up and above board. Having meetings with them, keeping them abreast of information and the deadlines, making sure we get that information, because if we don't get that information, we then will be under serious issues, you know what I mean? And we want to be an efficient Olympic committee.
Of course. So and you're responsible for it, and you make sure everybody's where they need to be. And how do you deal with, it's something that we all have to struggle with, but I think under a situation like that where you're responsible for the team and there are competing requirements, how do you manage that? Because these are things that are time sensitive. These are athletes, so they're very high performers. These are coaches who are care about their athletes, and so it has to be a really high pressure, high stress kind of situation. So how do you deal with those competing demands, and especially when tensions are high?
Years ago in the early 2000s, I used to, in Angostura, I used to multitask a lot. I used to do 3 or 4 events, doing my HR work. It was a lot of multitasking. And that gave me the experience to really do that now. However, I have learned that sometimes you have to focus on one thing at a time in order to really get the quality. But also, I had an experience where the multitasking was not all that great. Your brain can get bogged. And it did happen.
Tell me about that experience.
In fact, I was arranging about 3 or 4 things in one weekend. One actually was in my administrative thing. One actually was the Olympic, managing about 2, 3, 4 teams for the Olympic relay, the Olympic Day relay they had on the promenade. That could have been 2002 or 3. And I was doing teams for Angostura. I was doing teams for the running clubs. That alone, and plus I had a whole Christmas party function to arrange. I don't think it was Christmas. It might have been sports day at that time in June, and plus other work demands. So with everything else, I went to, and I insisted I must go and ride. I was still competing. I went to ride the Sunday morning with my club, and I totally passed out on the ride.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was attributed to my the brain being tired, and I just passed out riding. Thank God where it was and where the guys were, and everything was good. Yes, they took me to the hospital, but my brother was there as well. But the whole thing about it is that the experience, I knew exactly what it was, because I just probably didn't get enough rest and I was overworking the brain. So while you know how to multitask, there are times when you need to have to. It taught me a lot about setting back, taking time. I changed my entire manner in which I worked.
Nice.
I approach everything differently. When I take a day to respond, it's because I'm just assessing the whole thing.
But I don't understand why we get these unreasonable expectations about, you have to respond to everything real time. I reject that. I reject it.
Yes. And I totally understand it now. Totally.
Yes. So that would have just frightened you.
That would have
frightened you.
It maybe for a little bit, but not really. I think I am very resilient. That's something I learned over the years as well, and my coping strategy. So I bounced back, but it did rattle a little bit.
Helped you.
And that's why I had to make adjustments.
Right, helped you to reprioritize and realize that, listen, burning the candle at both ends cannot happen over and over and over. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it takes that kind of wake-up call for you to realize what your limits are, and that you have to be sort of patient and take time with yourself.
Yeah, you see, very early in my life, I know that wellness is a priority.
Exactly.
So the whole thing about it is that maybe I was always pushing for the sport and stuff because of that importance on maintaining wellness. So when this happened, then the realization comes up that the focus on the mental wellness and the psychological mental and the emotional is also important. You can't only look at the physical. So you have to take care of yourself in those other ways as well. And that's where the taking a step back and really assessing and analyzing and taking some time out became so important.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
I think that let me just tell you, a good question, by the way. One of the things is to speak up and have my own voice. And work-wise, one of the things was stay away from and don't get involved in gossip and informal grapevine story. And as you said, I'm always focused and always, on what I have to do, never get involved in whatever. And I pass that, not the gossip, I pass that information on to others, people who, I saw in the workplace that felt that, you needed to just focus on your work. Don't get involved with other people, what other people say and this kind of thing. But also speaking up because, there are times when you see that groups in a team and you're making decisions, but the dull decision or that is made is because nobody really spoke and made those points necessary to contribute to the sort of groupthink kind of story.
Yeah, no one was willing to be devil's advocate, and everybody sort of saw what was going wrong, and they're just like, yeah, I can't bother. I'll just let that happen.
And I think that made me be the devil's advocate. I've always felt that I have a question that I'm not hearing anybody saying. Yeah. So gotta say it, even if they don't like it.
But you seem to take everything in stride, and I think that probably serves you well as well, because without getting into detail, but I find that in sport there seems to be like a lot there are all kinds of legal matters, there are all kinds of disagreements, and so how do you maintain, and I have to say I've never seen you anything but peaceful, calm, collected, together.
Well, thank you for that. That is something I learned along the way as well in the working environment, because I had a very, very strong temperament. I still have it, but I learned how to manage it. That comes from the Henderson family. But I think that it comes with how I took on the role as well, because while, yes, I was encouraged to take on the role, and that was a self-battle on my own and taking on the role.
Really? But, you have to tell me about that.
But, the whole thing, it comes with the confidence thing that we doubt, But from the time that I made the decision, whether it was a spiritual one for me or whether or not it was, a confident one for me, the whole point about it is from the time I made the decision and I let go of any thought, I said, okay, I take a day at a time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm in the position, I realized that I can make a decision. I have the knowledge to make a decision. Yeah. I have a knowledge to have the judgment.
Yeah.
In order to respond to whatever is required.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that more and more. So it builds the confidence as you go along.
Sure. And how do you maintain sort of that peace and composure? Because I think, yeah.
I don't always think I have the peace and composure, but sometimes I think I'm extremely intolerant. But I manage it. I just don't know. I say, okay, just let it come in and go back out. And maybe that's when the thing about the gossip is working all now, allowing the information to come through and to just go by. Then I will deal with it. Maybe the experience that happened that time for multitasking. I allow it to assimilate and just go. And then I will deal with it. Sometimes I get up in the morning and I have ideas or I have stuff that I realize is an answer to a question I have.
Nice.
So, you have to leave things sometimes for them to, like, same way you leave your pot to simmer, leave it to simmer, let it, then you get the answer eventually. You figure it out And sometimes, yes, people think I am delayed, but there's the delay for a reason.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know your own mind and to know what you think and to give that space to evolve in your head, huh? Because sometimes people want to rush you to judgment or rush you to a decision, and you're still, wait a minute, there are lots of pieces moving here. We need to think about the impact of this decision, of this move, of everything else on where, you know, the responsibility of a leader is just taking that step back and being able to look at the parts that other people who are pressing you for a decision aren't even seeing.
Yeah.
They don't even have your purview. And so looking at what is the impact and how will this play itself out, and being willing to take the time to trust your judgment.
Yeah. You know, the distance running, I don't know if when you did the marathon that you learned about yourself, right? So sport makes you learn about yourself. I always tell people, a piece of my advice in learning to run a marathon is to run by yourself.
Yeah.
Don't always run in a group, because you can run in your group and train at most times, but you must go and run by yourself, because you're on that road on your own in the race. And you must know how to have that judgment. Some people, I watched Flora Duffy in the race recently, and I noticed that recently she doesn't wear a watch. And even if I have on a watch, I do not pay attention to every single minute. And I may glance at it, but it's not, I don't allow it to control me. I know me. So in the end of the day, I follow my feeling, not the watch.
Yeah.
Some people go by the watch, you know, because they're using the time as their guidance.
Yeah.
So it comes back to, you must know yourself in order to be true to self, and also to the values that you have to live by, the integrity in business.
Yeah.
So it's a big one for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything above board and done properly. I love that. And that's really, really important, and will serve you well. And I'm sure has served you well. That's so funny when you're talking about the running by yourself. So the first marathon that I did, it was funny. It didn't happen as much on the longer runs, but on the day of the race, as I'm running, I just realized the mental clarity and it was almost like my brain was supercharged. And I was just like, and so I literally was running, and I had two other friends who ran with me, but they weren't running the full marathon. They were doing the half. And I could estimate, based on their pace per mile and their course, where I would see them on the course because of where the loop was. And I'm doing this complex math just in my head. And I'm like, nah, this is what I think, but this could not be what's actually going to happen. And sure enough, I said, okay, I'm going to see David now. And there he was. And then I was like, okay, and I was like, I can't believe my brain just worked all of that out. My pace, their pace, the route, everything. But it's almost as though just having that blood working through your body and being in that state, it just puts you into this, I don't know, this supernatural state.
I think that was also because if you train with them and you're accustomed and you know the time, those are the things that you learn automatically, So sometimes we don't need anything else but that, as you say.
Yeah. I think it is getting in tune with yourself and understanding your own rhythm and being willing to listen to yourself. Yeah. So Yasmin, who also supported me on my first race, she was quite surprised when I saw her at the end, and I was just like, I knew this is where I would see you, because I had managed to work it all out. But I think it's so important, especially for women, to get involved in sport, because I feel like it gives you an edge. It helps you with mental clarity. It helps you with feeling like you're taking care of yourself. I think a lot of times women tend to take care of everybody and somehow not take care of themselves. And that tends to be a problem. And we have these unrealistic expectations of ourselves and how we are supposed to function.
Correct.
I think, so as much as you are new to this role, you have been preparing for this throughout your career.
All my life.
Yes, all your life. And it must, I think it is it is certainly with all of the work and you know, talking about Futures Female, talking about women in sport, looking at the changes that we needed to see. It is so gratifying to see this coming to fruition through you in this role, and the you being you in your role and not trying to be anybody else, and not trying to, you know what I mean? Just owning this role in your own space and being willing to do that and feeling confident enough to do that. And you talked about your doubts and confidence and the battles. And I can't imagine as elite an athlete as you are, how that could happen. But tell me about that battle. Like, how could you have any doubt that you would be absolutely amazing at this role?
You know, it may have a lot to do with who I was as a young person coming up, and those doubts. So you always, you know, have some little thing that you're just not sure about of yourself. And that goes through your life, and everybody has something that they live with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, so when this was presented, there were some days and weeks that, you know, that I was thinking about it, and really, really, I think I had more sleepless nights prior to April 30 than I had after. You know, some people would worry after the fact. So my thing was before I made the decision.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying is, until I made the decision, I had all this, you know, battle with myself. You know, can I or can I not? You know, this kind of thing. But subsequent after that was when I had made decision. I said, okay, I have to do this. I can do this. Let me do it. Then I just accepted that for myself and said, look, let me just do a day at a time, take it in stride, and go with it as that. So therefore, I built that confidence in myself and wanting to just do it like that, you know, not letting anything bother me. If something slips in the mind, I quickly put it at bay and focus.
Yeah.
Focus on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not wanting to allow anything to creep in there.
Yeah. And those must have been skills that you would have learned as an athlete, because you need to like block out all of the noise when you're preparing for a race, when you know, you have to block out noise and focus.
Yeah, you have to focus. You have to, you know, go in for that first place in your age group, or, you know, you see two people you need to pass, or, you know, you have to, you know, and you're in the present. Yeah. And just taking a step at a time.
So I heard about this other podcast that I was hearing about, where Reese Witherspoon was talking about her role playing June Carter, and how she called her lawyer, she was calling the director, she didn't want to do it, she doesn't want to do it because she feels like she's not going to do it well. This is a living person, she's going to do it badly, she can't sing, and she's complaining and talking herself out of it and hiding from this role, and then she ends up winning an Oscar, and people are like, you know, how is it possible? And she was obviously, because of the Oscar, but when you see her in this role, how could you possibly have doubted that you would have done this justice? And she said, you know, to this day, she isn't necessarily convinced that she was the right person to play that role, but she went into it doing the best that she could, and then decided to stop fighting against herself in this role.
Yeah.
And I think
I think that's it. Until you decide that, listen, just do it and don't fight yourself. It's the battle with yourself that causes the issue. Yeah. But from the time you give in and maybe say a prayer or do whatever it is that makes you be at peace with yourself, then you start to focus on what is required. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, is that you add value. You add value, and just you know, accepting that and being at peace with that, and understanding, listen, you know, as long as I come to this thing and I bring my best self and I do my utmost best, I will do it justice. I will do it justice from my perspective. And I don't have to do it like anybody else. I just have to be the best version of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true.
So what are you most looking forward to in this role? What's the next sort of big thing?
Oh, well, we have the CYG, the Commonwealth Youth Games next year. But
It's
one
huge.
of the things, yes, we're already working towards it. But I think what really would be one of the things that I really think I'm looking forward to is ensuring that the TTOC has a home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ensuring that that legacy of an Olympic house is set, and I think we need it sooner than later. So I really would like to at least set the ground for that, literally, and get it done.
Yeah. And what about what kind of sort of leader and mentor are you? Because I know that a lot of not just young women, but young men as well look up to you. So what kind of leader are you? How does
should really ask other people what they think what type of leader I am. But you know, I think I'm engaging person because I'm very operational.
Mhm.
Sometimes I you know, I like to be involved.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'd
I
say you're
guess
collaborative as well. I would definitely
yeah,
say collaborative. Yeah.
definitely, you know,
Engaging and collaborative. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not the, although I may appear very on the sides or something, or observant, I really get into what it is. I like to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what advice would you give for someone coming up in sports administration? I think there are lots of tremendous young women who are coming through the ranks. And what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, but you have to go for it. Start earlier than later.
Mm-hmm.
To do whatever it is that your interest is. Start early. Don't wait for that opportune time. Get involved in stuff early and go for it, because confidence is built in the action, not before the action.
Wow, that is such great advice. That is such great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what is absolutely so insane? So the person who was interviewing Reese Witherspoon, I think his name was Adam Grant, and he wrote this book that I absolutely love. I just finished reading, called Think Again. And he said exactly that. Confidence is built in doing it. Don't wait until you get the confidence. You will get the confidence as you're doing the thing, and it will, you know, it's going to help you to build up. You see?
Yeah,
yeah. So the next thing you need to think about, whether before you finish this role or after, is writing the book.
I'm not sure the book is going to be about the Olympic movement. It might be something else, because I had a thought of something before the Olympism. This Olympic experience has come about, so you never know.
Oh, I'd love to hear what that's about. What would that be about?
Or more personal interests and experiences along the way that you know, have made you come here. Maybe some things that I've just said, but you know, people don't really think of all those things that you go through that are really a thing until afterwards. And we didn't, at that time, we didn't keep logs of things that we did. Like now they capture everything that you know you do. I still don't take logs of anything, you know, really and truly. Everything is in mind. But yeah, but they're things, they're more personal.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I know that your faith is certainly very important to you, and it comes through in how you carry yourself and the things that you say and the energy that you bring, and I know that has been it certainly is an example, because you sort of glide through very quietly confident and peaceful, and you know, you don't seem to kind of get down into the fray. You just seem to kind of stay even keeled, and I've admired that from afar for some time.
If it's one thing you told me today is that, and I'm going to take that away.
Excellent, excellent. And tell me about a time when you have created transformation. Tell me about, on your journey, tell me about a transformation that you've created.
Okay, so while working at Angostura, part of my portfolio was about wellness and employee relations and organizing. I set up the gym and organized events and sporting activities to get the employees engaged and so. But what was extremely, did workshops and everything. So what was really transforming was the lives, the employees themselves and their mindsets and how they change their lifestyles to incorporate wellness or whether it's just walking or whatever wellness activities that they did for themselves. They understood the importance of it after all the different things that they had available to them, you know, and being able to change what choices they make for better them.
Yeah.
So that I think because you know more than every time the retiree, I had to deal with the retirees when they were leaving, and every time a retiree would be leaving, I would say, okay, now you have time to focus on your wellness, and they would always come back and tell me thank you, or they did this or they did that, you know. So so I feel very good about that.
I think that's great. And the brilliant part of it all is you are now at the head of the Olympic Committee with the ability to help transform a nation through wellness, through looking after ourselves, through being better at taking care of ourselves and having that spotlight. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that, because we definitely need to take better care of ourselves. Excellent. And thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. I was so excited to see this come to fruition. The first female head of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee, Miss Diane Henderson, who is breaking down barriers, breaking glass ceilings, and, you know, sharing the journey with all of us. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. This has been another episode of Getting to the Top, where we interview transformational leaders about their journey as they are changing things and making them better for all of us. Thank you so much, and see you next time.